Good afternoon. I'm Chris Demon, social media editor of the Sandbox News, and I'm here today with Ursula Ryan to discuss her favorite books for summer reading. How you doing today, Ursula?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And you're a professor of communication at Gibbs campus?
Correct.
How long have you been doing that?
I would say about 7 years.
Well, why don't we go ahead and jump right in and tell us about what you picked today for your summer reading.
I have The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. She focuses on Native Americans. I have Barbara Kingsolver's latest book, Flight Behavior. And this is a very new author to the novel, and Amanda Copeland.
And that's The Orchardist.
The Orchardist, yes.
Of those books, which one are you having the most fun with?
I've read them all, and this one I'm going to read again because the writing was so intricate and so beautiful that I'm pretty sure I missed a lot going through it the first time. So I'm going to go reread it.
I hear a lot when I'm talking to my friends who read, almost none of them go back and revisit books. I think that's a shame because you do often miss a lot the first time around. Especially, I mean, that sounds really fantastic for a first novel where you're getting that kind of depth.
Amanda Copeland was really writing short stories, and she had an idea when she was doing her master's program at the writing college, and the characters couldn't fit into a short story. And it took her 8 years to write this. And it really goes into a lot of depth on the Washington state at the turn of the 20th century. So there is a lot of meat in this book.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, on the Flight Behavior by Kingsolver, what kind of a setting are we looking at in that?
Oh, this is fun. This is rural Tennessee. It's a declining farm, and the chief character, Delarobia Turnbow, is a bright girl, and she has found herself in an unhappy marriage, and she's in this rural area, and she knows it's declining. But she comes upon a discovery that lifts her spirits and gives her a reason why to go on and to leave some things behind. And I think I like to visit this book with some of my students who sometimes can carry a lot of old baggage with them instead of just going forward with their life. Don't concentrate on the old, just go ahead. Move ahead with your dreams.
Well, that's a great message, especially for someone going to college.
Yes, this is a great book.
She's a multi-best-selling author. I mean, I've seen her.
She is. She has an undergraduate in biology, and she has her master's in biology as well. So, in a sense, she's a scientist, and what she brings to her writing is her social conscience. And about this book is the flight behavior is about the monarch butterfly who should be nesting in southern Mexico, but because of the climate change, has found this whole colony in North Carolina. Yeah, so it's kind of like Delarobia Turnbow, the protagonist. She really wants to be somewhere else, but she's tied to this area, and she knows she wants more.
That's a very prescient up-to-the-minute book. I mean, it was just the other week I saw that our President Obama, was going to be pushing an initiative on climate change, and it's a very big subject. Not to mention, I would think as a scientist, she would bring she'd have a good sense of detail.
She does. And as a matter of fact, she even brings in scientists who study the behavior of the monarch butterfly. And his name is Ovid. So Della Robbia, this little girl in, well, not so little, but this young woman in rural Tennessee who has this extraordinary name, meets up with an extraordinary scientist who introduces her to the world of science.
Now, let's talk a little more about the other selection you had.
The Roundhouse.
Yes.
This is all I could come up with because all the copies in the libraries around Pinellas County, they're out. But it's by Louise Erdrich, and Erdrich is another famous American woman writer, and she concentrates on Native American culture, and particularly the Ojibwe tribe in North Dakota. And what captured me about this book, it's a young man who's trying to find his way in the world, okay? And it's a coming of age book. And he's a Native American, and he is also tied to the reservation, okay? And he wants more out of life, and he knows there is another part of life out there. But a tragic situation that happened to his mother on the reservation sets in him a route. He wants revenge for who attacked his mother.
That sounds like it.
This is really, well, Erdrich, she really has a sense of mystery, and you want to keep turning the page because you want to know what this fellow is up to. What has he found? What's the next clue that he's uncovered, you know?
Now, would you say these are similar? I don't know if you've ever read any Tony Hillerman. Similar subject, different area of the country. He's mostly Southwest Indians.
Yes, yeah. No, I haven't read any of his books, no. I'll tell you, I was lucky with these because I know Kingsolver. If I pick up a Kingsolver book, I know it's going to be great, okay, and it's going to be very detailed. And I know that Erdrich is the same. You know, she focuses on Native American. I was lucky with this book. I was really lucky. I just happened into the bookstore, and just the cover caught my eye, and it said Washington and Washington State. I've never been out to Washington State, so I like to read a little bit about where I haven't been. And this book, if I could suggest one meaningful book that will take you out of your own troubles, your own life, and know what survival really is at the turn of the 20th century, where people really ate from the land. And if they didn't produce, they didn't eat. And this is a book about survival and of overcoming tragedy.
Well, that does sound like a fantastic pick. And of the three, that's your favorite, I take it.
Yeah, well, usually the last book I read is usually my favorite, you know.
Now, you were saying before the interview how much you enjoy audiobooks.
Oh, I love audiobooks.
Who are the readers on these? You said actually one of them doesn't have an audio edition yet.
No. I would imagine the Roundhouse and Flight Behavior Orchardist is probably going to go on to audiobooks.com if it's not there already. But I like it because you have wonderful voiceovers by these actors or just people who are very gifted in narrating a story, reading the story.
Now I'm curious who your favorite narrator is.
Barbara Kingsolver.
Really?
Yes, she has a very inviting, tender voice. And she goes you can read her books, but she really brings you into the countryside, and the expression of her voice will tell you how the monarch butterflies were just, when Della Robbia walked up the mountain, she saw this mountain of orange. You know, she thought there was a fire, and it's King Salva. She's great. She's great.
I found actually a lot of authors do well with their own work.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Will Wheaton's reading on his own audiobooks, and Neil Gaiman as well has done some great work on his. A lot of people I really just don't get the audiobooks. I've found sometimes. I think there might be a little bit of intellectual snobbery there, but it really is convenient, wouldn't you say?
I'll tell you what. Whether someone is reading to you the book, or whether you're reading the book, you're reading. And you're getting a sense of the characters, because the person narrating the story or reading the story will go into their story voice of the character. And I think that brings in even more depth. Because when you're reading the book, you're reading it through your internal voice, whereas you won't see the text in front of you, but you get a lot more of the backdrop story and the background. And I like to walk, and I don't have a walking buddy. So my audiobook is my walking buddy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
When I know a lot of the people I talk to who were very into audiobooks in the car and on planes.
Absolutely.
Particularly, they just love to plug in and listen to their favorite book. Now, another thing with these three books, there seems to be kind of a theme of not only dreams deferred by problems, you know, and a desire to escape. Who do you think that would be most appealing to? I mean, generally when I'm handing out books to my friends, you know, I'll say, that's exactly, you know, the type of person that needs to read this book.
Well, a lot of my colleagues and I share different books, and but I bring my books into my classes, and I talk about different characters, especially with the orchardist. I have some students who are really going through a very difficult time, and they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they don't see, they're so enmeshed in what's happening to them today because they're young, and they don't have that experience that perhaps they're gaining through going through school. But I bring in the characters and I tell them, look, if she did not skin and cut the animal, she didn't want to, she and the rest of her family wouldn't live. And if she didn't learn to do certain trades like sewing and knitting and tending the orchard, which was, they had 8,000 acres, and plum trees, apple trees, different, let's see, some apricot trees, and they would make their jam and their jelly. So what they ate, they had to produce, they had to make it. So, and I read some of the books to them, and some of my younger women would relate to some of the characters who really escaped a horrible tragedy. And they didn't make it, but the one who was left became more self-actualized. She was more empowered, and she had a real sense of self. And this is what we want our